Welcome everybody to the May Pettigrew Neighborhood Association meeting. I want to welcome everybody that has joined us. We have a great guest speaker in the house. His name is Jordan. Jordan is a new youth pastor from United Methodist Church. He will speak for about 5 to 10 minutes, letting you know what does he do in Pettigrew, what does their church does in Pettigrew, and what is his job title at United Methodist. After Jordan is through with his speech, if there's any public input, we will do public input on each item, okay? So Jordan, if you want to come up and introduce yourself and have at it.
Hello everybody, my name is Jordan Laux, as Sierra introduced me, and I've been to a few of these meetings, and this is by far the fullest. But I'm not under any impression it's because you came out to see me. I know you come out for a different reason, but I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I'm the Associate Pastor of Discipleship and Outreach at First United Methodist Church, and Sierra asked me to come and speak here at one of these meetings, and it just turned out that you're also talking about the green space. So what a wonderful thing. That's an important discussion here in both of these neighborhoods. So First United Methodist Church is at 401 South Spring Avenue. It's in between 12th and 13th. It has a big dome on top of it, for those who might have seen it. So I've only been living in Sioux Falls since about last July, and so I'm kind of getting used to living in Sioux Falls, and it's pretty good adjustment. And I've grown to love the city of Sioux Falls. So First United Methodist Church has been part of the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood since the early 1900s, and part of Sioux Falls for about 150 years, about since Sioux Falls was founded. So it's been a church here since then, the late 1800s. Part of the United Methodist Church denomination, a Protestant tradition. Our mission as a church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. And our vision is to be a sanctuary of Christian hope, love, and encouragement in the heart of Sioux Falls. We have 3 worships on Sunday mornings, 8:30, 9:45, and 11:01, which was our 11:01 service, just got launched a few weeks ago. And so it's a really fun worship service, kind of different aspect to it. It's a little more casual. And last Sunday was our second service Sunday, where we actually had a mission project in the service, where we put together some diaper bags, which we'll be delivering to the Teddy Bear Den, which is another ministry in downtown Sioux Falls. So we're excited about that. It's a fun worship service that doesn't take place in our sanctuary, but in our dining hall. So it's a little bit different. But besides worship, we also, an important part of what I want to talk about tonight is our theme for 2022, which is Love the 605. So this kind of grew out of our partnership last year that we had with both Pettigrew Heights Neighborhood Association, Trey Ministries, Central Church, Butterfly Boutique, 2 Men in a Truck, and Black Hills Federal Credit Union, where we came together to have the Warm Coats for Cool Kids coat drive. So that was really fun last year. We all came together as different organizations and got some coats for kids in the neighborhood. And so kind of impetus for that was part of it. And so this year we've been sponsoring different organizations and partners in our community. We've partnered with The Banquet, Habitat for Humanity, Church on the Street, Troy Lending Library, and the Teddy Bear Den this month. And we're continuing to partner with different organizations to see how we can love the 605, grow in our love of God, love of neighbor, and make an impact for people in our community. And just kind of talk about some of our ongoing service things that if you like to get involved with them, you don't have to be a member of the church. You can certainly partner with us and come and serve with us. We have 2 different teams that serve at the banquet on the 3rd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. One at the downtown banquet, one at the Banquet West. We also have food distribution with Feeding South Dakota on first Wednesdays of the month, where we serve right now approximately 300 to 350 families each time, which that is a lot of people in need of food. If it's 300 cars, each family 4 to 5 people. So there's a big need in our community right now for food. And so we're grateful that we can partner with Feeding South Dakota to have that food distribution in our parking lot the first Wednesdays of the month, alongside helping with the banquet on those Tuesdays. We also partner with a ministry called Night Watch, which also, and our time to serve is the first Monday of the month, and we serve out at Haywood Elementary, which is in the northwestern part of the city, and we serve there about 100 to 180 families each night, and it's actually mostly kids that come and pick up the meals out there, and so we're partnering with Night Watch to kind of help serve that as well. So these are some ministries that if you want to talk to me about that, we certainly can. You can definitely get involved in helping with them. We also have a team that goes on the second Saturdays of each month to partner with Habitat for Humanity and doing some different mission work with them. A couple other partnerships I want to talk about is Kid Stop, which is a free after-school and summer care program for lower-income families here in Pettigrew Heights. We have about 70-plus children in the program right now. It's K through 8, mostly K through 6, but there are some K through 5. But there's some middle school kids in there. There's kids from Lowell. I'm going to forget all the names. Is McGovern one of them? It's a middle school. I'm going to forget all the names, but a couple different elementary schools and a couple middle schools that we have kids come in and have free after-school program for kids during the year. And so we're very grateful to have that program. We have Kathy Martins and Constance as our other director there, and so we're just grateful for that program. And we also have a child care and preschool that is housed in our building as well, called United Child Care and Preschool. And so we have kids ages 2 to 6 years old for affordable child care for them as well. And there's also something, I don't know if anybody knows about this, but the Toy Lending Library. It's a really amazing organization. If you haven't met Annalise, who is the executive director of the Toy Lending Library, she is amazing. They house their office in our building. And so the Toy Lending Library is just kind of like a library. There's boxes of toys that have different levels on them, and people can come, families can come and check them out for free, and then bring them back. And so basically I'm just kind of saying that First United Methodist Church is all about partnering with different organizations that are doing good work here in Sioux Falls. And so if there are things that you are involved with that you'd like, hey, maybe we can partner together, I would love to talk to you about that, because we are all about seeing how we can continue to spread love and love the 605. So that's kind of what we're about as an organization. There's different things going on at our church too, if you'd like to get involved in that way, or if you're religious or Christian, you'd like to get involved in that way, certainly can come. But anybody is welcome to join us in any of our groups, any of our partnerships. And we're just so grateful to be in Pettigrew Heights and able to partner with so many different great organizations. Final thing is we also have, we're grateful that St. Michael's Ethiopian Orthodox Church is able to worship. You may have noticed a few weeks ago, maybe it's been a month now, that their building ended up burning pretty extensively inside, and we were able to allow them to worship in our chapel space because it wasn't being used. And so we're grateful that they can do that. And it was this amazing happenstance. As I mentioned before, we launched that new worship service. We decided to worship in a different space, our dining hall. We had thought about worshiping in the chapel. We're in the dining hall. And so a couple months later, when the Ethiopian church needed a place to worship, we were able to open our doors to them. And so we're grateful for that, able to do that. And I think that's about everything that I wanted to say. We're all about partnering with organizations, and our theme for this year is Love the 605. I can answer any questions, but I think I've taken about 5 to 7 minutes, so I don't want to take up too much more time because I know you were here for a different reason mostly. So, but I am so grateful to be a part of First United Methodist Church. There are a lot of great things happening there, and so I'd love to partner with you if you would like to. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Now, Jordan can stick around, but I'm sure he won't be sticking around much longer. But thank you, Jordan, for that. If we can have Augusta from the Secretary and Treasury give us our financial report, that would be great.
Hello, my name's Augusta Weiss. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Pettigrew Heights Neighborhood Association. I'm here to report that we've had no movement since the last reporting period in our accounts. So our current balance is $2,827.99. We do have a couple of upcoming expenses that we will be supplementing with our neighborhood association funds, including our Pettigrew Heights block party this summer, where we'll be having live music, so we'll be supplementing any funds that are necessary after donations for that event. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Then we're going to move on to the ordinance, safety, and social. And I'm going to touch on this for a little bit because I talked to the police department on this issue. We have a lot of crime happening in our areas. We have a lot of juveniles with guns, a lot of shootings occurring. 99.9% of these stolen guns in the hands of these kids and these juveniles is coming from unlocked vehicles. Whether it's Tut Hill, Cathedral, Pettigrew, it's all over. So southeast side of town thinking that we don't have crime there at Tut Hill, you do have crime there. They're targeting those places. They're targeting those areas. So 99% of these gun violence with juveniles getting their hands on 9mm pistols and 357s is coming from your cars. I just got off the phone with the state attorney's office yesterday about this issue here. Please lock your doors. If one of these kids get a gun and there's a homicide that happens because they stole a gun out of your car, I'm sure that would be on your conscience. Okay, so we're going to be on to the new business here. We're going to have a railroad cleanup. So in July, we're going to have a railroad cleanup where we get a hold of all of the neighbors and we clean up all of the trash along 11th and Grange, all the way going to West 10th Street Neighborhood Association, going all the way to Minnesota Avenue. We did it last year. We had over 100 juveniles, youths from different areas of the city that participated because in their neighborhood they didn't have railroad tracks and they wanted to know why we're cleaning up railroad tracks in the neighborhood. Some people left little prayer rocks and then the transits will pick them up and look at those prayers or whatever not. So we're going to be doing that starting July all the way until October, once a month, to clean up that area here. We're going to do the National Night Out with that's going to be at Low Elementary School in August, and we're going to team up with 10th Street Neighborhood Association. And the reason why I picked this school is because it's a secured backyard, it's fenced in. We're going to have games and races and all that and prizes to be given out there. So 2 of the neighborhood associations will be combining for National Night Out as well. Me and the city did a walk audit in our neighborhood, and I tried to get everybody to do neighborhood walk audits to hold landlords and people that own property accountable for their trash or whatever in their yards. So me, Matt Tobias, and Dominique with the health department walked through the neighborhood with some council members that are here tonight, and we go around and look at code and health violations, and then Matt Tobias and them will write them up, give them a letter, 14 days or whatever to clean it up or whatever not, and then citations could be issued. So the reason why we have the city come in to clean sweep it up is because it suppresses crime in the neighborhood. I don't want 6 bullet holes in a car left on the side of the road or in a driveway. I don't want broken windows or graffiti on houses because that makes your crime go up. So if Matt wants to give us an update on the results, that would be great.
Hello, everybody. Good night. I just wanted to give you a quick 2-minute update. Sierra kind of covered the basis of it, but we did a walk audit in the neighborhood. We covered it. We cut it into 4 different quadrants. The walk audit was actually done as a request from the neighborhood association. We sent out 56 letters for different violations that we found through the walk audit. And I think we've given everybody actually, this the very first letter that went out was a courtesy letter, and we're giving you until June 6th to correct those violations. So we wanted to make sure they hit the mail and give everybody at least a good solid month to take care of those. But on average, we have about a 90%, I'll say 90%, a little higher than that, a compliance rate when someone receives one of our letters that violation is actually corrected. So it was a good thing. Like I said, 56 letters went out. I'll be back here at the next meeting probably giving you guys an update as far as where the violations stand, how many are still outstanding. But all in all, it was a good partnership. Like Sierra said, we had city councilors, some sitting, some newly elected city councilors joined us for this walk audit. So all in all, it's a good thing for the neighborhood.
Okay. Now we're going to be on to the new business also about the green space on 9th and Grange. Boy, don't get me started on that, right? So everybody that wants green space, that supports green space in this neighborhood, can you please stand up? Everybody that is for the green space. All right. Look at that. All right. You may have a seat. I have city councilors, city staff, school board members, and the school district here tonight. If there is any questions, I will have Laura come up with the survey results. After that, we're going to have a presentation with Chris about the green space. Then we're going to have Cathedral come up of their plan of what they want to see on that open lot. And then we will take public input on those issues. After that is all said and done, I'll give my input and my final push to what I think we need on that green space, okay? It is very nice that we got Pettigrew and Cathedral together, and the reason why is because the green space is Cathedral and Pettigrew is right there on the border. So it makes sense to combine neighborhood associations together to get people's public input on things of that nature. If we have any questions, the city's here, the school board district is here, and planning is here also with that. The city does not plan on speaking tonight. They said that they were just going to listen. If you do have any questions, they can come up and answer your questions at that time. So I want to get Laura with the planning committee member with Cathedral up here for your survey report.
Thank you so much. So before I start, I just want to say a big thank you to Sierra because you organized this meeting, and that's why we're all here today, is because you organized this, and the show of folks who stood up because you believed in green space is why you're here. And that echoes the survey. We surveyed more than 100 neighbors of Pettigrew and Cathedral, as well as received a lot of emails of feedback. And inside these packets are some of the comments that we received as feedback. So when we were thinking, why is green space in this area so important, we heard because it matters. And one of our neighbors, Chris Motes, he took some time and put together a presentation that goes into depth a little bit about why this green space matters and why we need to save it. So Chris, thank you for making time, and thanks for the presentation. Oh, and really quick, I want to let everyone know that after Chris talks, we have one more short speaker, and then Sierra is going to open up the microphone so that any neighbor who wants to share their thoughts about why this green space is important can do that. Sorry. After Pastor Bill speaks. Sorry, Pastor Bill, forgive me. Thank you. Oh, really quick, before we start, before Chris's conversation, Lane wants to say something. And Lane, you want to let everyone know how old you are?
I'm 7 years old, and I live with my dad and my mom are divorced.
Got that covered.
I like about the green space because I can fly this drone around.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thanks. Good to see everybody tonight. It's really nice to see so many friends and neighbors from the area. Thank you to our city council members who are here. Thank you, Senator Nessebar, for coming. And really thanks for, especially the kids. I'm so glad to see kids here. So my name is Chris Moats. I'm a husband and a dad. My wife, Hannah, and I have 5 kids ranging from 3 months to 9.5. Moats clan, you want to stand up and give them a wave back there? Augusta, you could tee up. There's our first slide. Yeah, so this is, so there's the now 9, 7, and 5-year-old. We now have a 2-year-old and a newborn too. That's of course the top of the 6th Street Hill with downtown behind us. We live and work and go to school in the North End. So on behalf of my family, I'm really grateful for the chance to share a few thoughts on why we think the Lincoln School site should remain what we call the Grange Green Space. We could talk about the many benefits of parks tonight. We could talk about the benefits to property values, the benefits to economic development. We could talk about the benefits to the environment. These are all great. But the reason my family wants the Grange Green Space to stay green is simple. Kids need a place to play. It's not so much that kids want parks. It's not so much that they want parks and playgrounds, though they do want them. When it comes to green space outside, kids need it. They need it. So access to parks, nature, and places to play aren't a luxury for the few, but we believe that they're a need for all kids. And this is a need that our family hopes might be considered. Augusta, hit the next slide. So I want to share just a little bit about myself. As a kid, I was lucky. I didn't even realize how good I had it, actually. When we were in school, we lived outside. The neighborhood I grew up in on the southeast side of Sioux Falls had really big backyards and no fences. The kids in the neighborhood, and there were a lot of us, we had free range of everyone's yard and open access to everyone's basketball hoop. And there were a lot of these too. On top of this, we had parks in both directions down our street. So as kids, morning time in the summer meant one thing. We'll go into the park. So the North End is a little bit different than the Sioux Falls neighborhood that I grew up in. My family has lived in the North End for 4 years, and we're delighted with our decision to make our home here. We love the neighborhood. But this area of Sioux Falls is different than the one I grew up in significant ways. You can hit the next slide, please. So to begin with, the neighborhood just has a lot more people in it, and not as much open space. This apartment is just down the street from where we live. It's, I don't know, 10 or 12 units, something like that. And that little patch of green that you see, that's where the kids play. You know, the kids that live in that building, that's where they play. So to put it in concrete terms of population density, you can hit the next slide, please. This selection of the neighborhood has 610 addresses. So it's bounded on the west and east by West and Summit, by the south and north by 10th and 6th. And it's more or less a random selection to just capture a snapshot of a neighborhood. That selection is 125 acres, and it has 610 addresses, meaning 610 households receive mail in that 125 acres. Right at the center, by the way, that big open spot, that's the Grange Green Space. Compare that, hit the next slide. Compare that with this Sioux Falls neighborhood. Again, just selected at random. There's not like a scientific method here, but I'm not trying to cherry pick data. Just trying to like look at what is maybe an average Sioux Falls neighborhood outside of the North End or outside of the urban core. So this neighborhood has about 128 acres, so slightly larger. There are 350 households. So I just want to share that data one more time. 125 acres at the snapshot from the North End with 610 addresses compared to 128 acres with 350 addresses. So I just share this, again, this isn't cherry picking data, it's more or less sort of random selections about the same size from different parts of the city. Just trying to make the point that it's actually a lot more people with less space. It's just a dense, it's a dense neighborhood. I would like to add too that, lest we think that it's all senior citizens and young single people, it's not. The block right next to my family, one block in the last 6 months added 7 children ages 11 and under in the last 6 months. Mogul boys, glad you're here. So, it's a lot of young families. Go ahead and hit the next slide. Here's a typical house. I think we'll recognize some of these sorts of houses. These are typical houses in the neighborhood. So what do we don't see? And where do we put the basketball hoop? Right? Where's the driveway? Where does the slip and slide go? I do appreciate that on the right they've got the parking spot painted green, but that's not the sort of green space that we're talking about. And I really want to emphasize, from the bottom of my heart, I am not complaining about the density of our neighborhood. We love that our neighborhood is dense and walkable. We love it. The human density enriches our family's life and our kids' upbringing. It's a great place to live. But our unique density calls for an appropriate level of green space. You can hit the next slide. So the city has like this 4-year master plan for parks, 2020 to 2024. And it calls for a city park within a half mile of every family, or 6 blocks, and the development of new parks in underserved areas. That's the quote from the plan. Next slide. So here's kind of the map of the neighborhood. So what you see, the red lines, those are the major arterials. So on the west is West, on the east is Minnesota, and then the south is 10th Street, and it drops down to 12th Street, right? I live in the Cathedral neighborhood. So for those of us who are north of 11th Street, I'm sorry, Pettigrew, but Emerson doesn't count. And it doesn't count because the racetrack that is 10th and 11th and then 12th Streets might as well be the Great Wall of China. As far as children on foot or on bike are concerned, it would be reckless and irresponsible for us to ask children to cross it. Now the circle, you see that yellow circle, and the blue line, that's a half-mile radius, drawn from the playground at Terrace Park. We all know that the Terrace is a long linear park, but as a parent of 5 small children, I know that the playground is what we're talking about. That's where the action's at, right? So that the circle's a half-mile radius as the crow flies. So a couple things to make note of. First, that between the south end of the picture, so north of that 10th and 12th Street corridor, but outside of that yellow circle, that's approximately 24 dense city blocks zoned for residential that are outside of that half-mile radius in which we would hope for a neighborhood park. Right? And I want you to further note that half-mile radius, that works great when we're talking east, west, north, south, because that's how our streets run. But for children on an angle, it's much farther than that. So like the southeast corner of the neighborhood, it's actually much further than a half mile. So hit the next slide, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So I just pulled 9th and Duluth. So the picture on the left, that's a walking route from 9th and Duluth. And I picked that because it's outside of the half-mile radius, and it's a multifamily house, and I just happen to know that kids live there. And the yard is about like the apartment building that I showed you earlier. So that, whatever route you take, it's 1 mile by foot or bike for a child to get to the playground at Terrace Park. If you would take a different maybe spot in the neighborhood, say 11th and Grange, it's 3/4 of a mile by foot or bike to the playground at Terrace Park. So if you look at the photo on the right, it's that same address, 9th and Duluth. You're going due west to get to the Grange green space, and it's 0.4 miles. So it's less than half the distance. And that's just a really big deal if your legs are still short and growing. It's harder to get places. It's also a big deal if you're a young parent with your hands full. And props to my dear wife. So a lot has changed since I was a kid. For starters, it's far easier for kids to get hooked on an Xbox and never set foot in a sandbox, right? And we all know that that comes with consequences. It comes with consequences that green time has been replaced with screen time. Yeah, you can clap for that. And there are real downsides to this. And as I said earlier, kids don't just want parks and playgrounds and green space, they need them. So research shows an undeniable link between good health and parks of all sorts, ranging from big national parks all the way down to our urban pocket parks with just a swing set or a few benches. So for kids in particular, being in or near green spaces has been found to be associated with better test scores, improved self-discipline and cognition, and reduced behavioral problems and symptoms of ADHD. Other research indicates that neighborhood green space may help mitigate income-related health disparities. I'm happy to share my sources if anybody's interested. So simply put, the importance of green space to the kids in this neighborhood cannot be understated. Kids need to be in contact with nature. They need it. They need to be in contact with living, growing things. They have playgrounds in the real world, not just the virtual one. So my family has a little larger yard. It's unusual for the neighborhood. During COVID, I put a swing set in the backyard to encourage my own kids to be outside a little bit more. And the yards of most homes nearby don't have the runway space needed for a good swing. Recently, a neighbor lady approached us. She was wondering if she could send her child over to swing in our backyard. Their yard is just too small to run around or to even put in a play set. Kids need places to play. That's why our family hopes for a vibrant future full of kids at the Grange Green Space.
We're going to go with our second speaker is with Central Church, Ralph Rogers Road. They have a plan that they would like to see change on that land. From what I can understand, nothing is set in stone. There's still a lot of planning with this for that. So if anybody from Central Church wants to come up and show your slide, that would be great.
Good evening, my name is Bill Shepard. I am the campus pastor from Central Church at this location. I'm also a neighbor. I live in this neighborhood, and what I hope to talk to you about is basically the answer to what the last speaker talked about. I'm also a father, and I've watched my kids grow up, and I can tell you that what he said about kids needing green space is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Our kids needed that, and our kids are on the right path now. A lot of it's because of that. I'm with Tom Rich, our executive pastor. He's going to talk a little bit as well. And Sierra asked me to talk about a proposal that we had presented to our elder board about a year this December, which involves a green space and park. I stood up with you. In this, let me give you a little background. In this facility, we've never wanted it to just be a church. We've also wanted it to be a community center. So where we have a preschool, so there's 45 kids, 7 different languages. We do addiction recovery. We set up mentorships for kids, for adults, for families. We have after-school learning programs from K to 12. One of those this year was a reading initiative. Kids jumped up 2 or 3 classes in reading this year. We also do some things outside of the wall. We work at the Axtell Center. We've got a state licensed daycare there. We do student care. We're developing staff care. We work with a housing initiative called Renewal 58. We're going this fall have some mentorships with life skills, budgeting, all those, home repair, those kinds of things for these residents. And we came to our elders and we wanted to, here's what we wanted to do. We wanted to, first of all, consolidate these things under one roof. But also, and this is really the important thing, is myself and everybody else on the staff here has got a much bigger heart than what we just talked about. We really want to see something beautiful done in this neighborhood and for this neighborhood because we love this neighborhood. And again, it's my neighborhood, and so I want to see something good done here. And so we looked across the street here. We saw 9th and Grange. We said, what could we do there? So look up here on the screen. Here's what we presented to our elders. This is a community center and park together. And let me just go around, first of all, the park, and I'll just go right around counterclockwise. On the edge of the parking lot, there's some basketball hoops. We come down around here at 8th and Euclid is where we move the community garden. Above that are a couple of soccer fields, practice fields. Above that is a play area. You can see a picture of that on the left, typical playground area. And then above that, one of our pastors said, you know, there's only one splash park in Sioux Falls. Why can't there be two? So we'd like to put a splash park there. There's a picture of it up on the top left there where kids can just run and play in the water. And then the building itself is a community center. We've got a middle school-sized basketball court on the top left there. The green part is a preschool and daycare center. I mentioned that we serve 45 kids. That enrollment gets filled up in about 3 weeks or less every single year. There's a lot of daycare and preschool needs, and so we'd like to expand that. Then there's a play area next to that for the preschool. And really what we want this to be the neighborhood's heart, the neighborhood's community center. This isn't just Central's thing. We want this to be, our whole slogan is your neighborhood, your church, and this is going to be your community center and your park. This is what we want to see here. Now, the thing is that going from what you see right here in this little building to that is a big step. It's a big step. And so that's why Tom Rich is here. He's our executive pastor. And what he wants to talk to you about is what could we propose right now today? Because right now is what we're talking about. So you can talk about what we can talk about today, propose today, with an eye towards that someday. So Tom, why don't you come on up?
Thank you, Bill. Yep. Again, my name's Tom Rich. I'm just going to stand up on me. I guess I might need to. Someone said, there we go. My name's Tom Rich. I'm the executive pastor at Central Church. And from the bottom of my heart, it's an honor to be with you guys. The work that's being done through this church for this community is near and dear to my heart because I think as a pastor and a leader in our church, there's a lot of pain in our world, and there's a lot of pain particularly in this community. There's also a lot of hope in this community as well. And we believe that in the city of Sioux Falls, when things are growing and flourishing, this is an area that can't be just looked to the wayside. This is an area that needs to be invested in because each of you neighbors here and your neighbors who aren't here matter deeply to us as a church, but ultimately to God. And so in that, that's the dream. That is absolutely one of the dreams that we're dreaming at Central Church because we believe at the core of all things in Matthew 22 is this great commandment. It's to love your Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. In this church, Central Baptist Church, if you remember that back in the day, started 8th and Spring, and we left for a season, but in about 2015, we felt convicted that we left our home, and we need to go back to our home and reinvest in this neighborhood. And that's why, yes, we're talking about the school board, yes, we're talking about the city, but the reality is there's another partner at the table. It's been there, this last, 7 years, and that's Central. And we've invested, annually through this church over $500,000. And with our partnership with the Hope Coalition, we've been able to reach out to, 40 plus kids, trying to give them a hope of a future of education. And with this building that we're currently at, we're at capacity. And there's much more. The education gap within preschools is, there's a couple hundred that are falling through the gaps each and every year. And that's not okay. And so the dream is, yes, one day as this church grows and the facility is warranted, we want to grow that. But the near future dream that we're dreaming currently is what if the city let us have access to this space and we would start cultivating all the play areas, potentially the splash pad, and all the things that we're talking about now, the community garden, and really work the land so it can be used for the community now. And so not something pipe dream that's like 6 years down the line, and we've all heard about building stoppages and lack of resources and supply chain things and things like that. But we are very open to the conversation of helping to develop this area now because your kids need it. This neighborhood needs it. You need a spot that you can take pride in that's going to move the needle in this neighborhood a lot more than the big fountain out there is going to. Am I right? All right. And so that's what we're here to kind of talk about, to share our 2 cents on. Again, we have no power in this conversation, but I know you guys have power. And so we want to join you in this mission to see this neighborhood served well. It's part of our strategic initiatives. If you come down to our Southwest campus, you'll see a huge wall talking about downtown, and you'll also see, hopefully you feel a good commitment from us right here in this building that shows that we're already here, we're already investing, and we just want to partner any way we can to see this neighborhood be given the dignity that it absolutely deserves. Thank you.
Are there any questions for us about this?
Or actually, could we open it up to neighbors to share their feedback about the green space and then if they have
Sure.
questions in that process?
Yep.
Does that work?
So, the microphones will catch your voice here on this. So, if there's any questions or public comment, now is the time to speak. So anybody wants public comment or anything of that nature, okay, go ahead. You're right here.
Yeah, so the garden space currently will be reduced significantly, from what I understand.
So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag because I'm not into politics here, so I'm going to be very square here. The school board is the school board's land, and they have the right to gift it to the city, exchange the property for other city property, or put it up for a bid, or they can just leave it like it is. We don't want to hold anybody hostage to their land. They have the right to sell their land and do what they want with their land, okay? What they want to do, the city, and I'm going to be straightforward with you, the mayor does not want a park in that area. They want affordable housing in that area, okay? This is what they want. They want 14 affordable houses in that area. Okay? So I did the meeting to have citizens speak up to put the brakes on city government. Now, for your question, will it be nice to put maybe affordable twin homes there? So how about if we put like affordable twin houses right there?
How about we leave it a park?
In a park, just a park?
Yeah. How about we leave it a park? How about we leave it a park? Sorry to interrupt you, but let's leave it a park.
We just want to get rid of all the green space.
Okay, go ahead.
Sierra, I live right across the street from the community garden there on Grange. I work from home half of the last couple of years. My window for my home office faces out over that whole block, and very rarely do I see people using that space for anything other than the community garden, other than the kids walking home from Axtell and cutting across it. So, for you guys that want all this green space, that's all well and fine, but where are you?
It's green space, but there's nothing there.
My kids sled on there. We
I mean,
bikes up there all the time.
Let's let
There all the time.
We have a speaker over here. Actually, we're going to keep it open for public comment. So I'm going to let, if you want to raise your hand, microphone.
So we live on Summit. So we're outside that half-a-mile radius that you drew on the board there. And we do fly kites there. We would go there more often if we could go to a swing set, right? We don't need the whole block for a swing set, but affordable housing will have children, and where will those children play? I'm happy to have children come to the neighborhood, but where will they play? They're going to be your community. They're going to be the kids that you want to serve. I am all for affordable housing somewhere in this city. And if it's in my neighborhood, that's okay. But where will they play? Where will we put them in, in a daycare? Where will we, right?
As Chris pointed out in his presentation, we already have a very high density. And putting in more affordable housing, it's just an increase that even more.
Right. And what were they planning to build? And what were they planning to build on all the houses that they've already ripped down on, is it 12 down there? 11? Yeah, what are they going to build there? Can they build housing there and then build a park where there's already green space?
So that land that you're talking about, I oversee that rental property, and that's a lot of rental property, and I can't discuss that. But there's going to be more houses in that area torn down, and she does plan on building there. So that whole empty lot over there that y'all see on 11th Street will be built for affordable housing at one point in time here, okay, for that.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, there are a lot of young families moving in to my neighborhood, and I see more kids every day in our neighborhoods. People are fixing these houses up, and they, like you said, the density is so high that we really don't have any place for the kids to play. And I have 7 grandkids and 3 kids, and we all go down there, and we fly kites, and we slide our sleds down the hill, and we go there all the time. We're on this end of it most of the time because we don't go over where the garden is because we don't want to interfere with that section of the property. But yeah, we do use it quite a bit because it's not that far from us. We just walk down the alley and over there. But and we do go to the other park, but they have to be supervised over there. It's just too far. When we supervise it, anybody.
Hi, I'm Destiny. I'm new to Sioux Falls, and I live near the green space. And I haven't really experienced summer here, but it has been really cold and really windy, and not really people playing outside. So, I've had ideas of this space. Definitely, the park is awesome, and I've thought how fun it would be to make it like an intelligent park and invite engineers to utilize the wind to kind of make this creative park space, because it's just so much energy just blasting through there most of the time. And then, adults need a place to play too. And I really think it would be great if it was kind of like a plaza with a couple of little places to enjoy, maybe restaurants, some kind of food garden, along with, the garden that's happening there that could feed these little places where we can recreate as adults too, with a whole internal park inside for farmers markets and so forth. So those are some of the thoughts I've got living next to this place.
I grew up in the country, and I love the density of this neighborhood, but I do rely on that green space for watching sunsets, for flying kites. Love that green space. We're down on the north and the lower end of it a lot. And I would love to see expanded community gardens. I would love to see a stopover place for people who are biking the bike trail but skipping the boring airport section. A lot of people do bike through from the Greenway to the west side of the trail. I would love to see an accessible playground where maybe even a little model of a historic Sioux Falls with a little main street that kids can play house in. That's the ideas that I have. If you look at pictures of Lincoln Elementary that used to stand there, it was fantastic and magnificent. And I hope that whatever comes is fantastic and magnificent. And we do need more affordable housing, but there's a lot of tear downs, houses that have burned out the center that could be replaced with affordable housing.
Hi, my name is Dan. We live down on Duluth, 8th and Duluth. We're happy to be here. We moved to Sioux Falls 11 years ago, and we love our community. We've watched our neighborhood get youthful. Kids just enjoy the youth and the excitement and the energy. Saw an internet article the other day talking about the movement of population across the country. South Dakota has the second largest increase of people moving into this area. That article specifically named Sioux Falls because it's a great place to live. My wife couldn't be here, but she wanted me to make a point tonight. Sioux Falls is listed as one of the great places to live. Why? Because of our parks, our cultural activities, our community. Never mention population density as a benefit. We need this green space. This is the first time I saw the community proposal. That's something worth looking at, to bring multiple uses to this community. There are areas for affordable housing. We need it, yes we do. We also understand the need for the dollars and the business aspect. But what value do you put on community and our children? So we are strongly in favor of the green space.
My name is Richard. We live on Prairie between 8th and 9th. We've lived there for 30 years. Our daughter did her kindergarten at Lincoln. It has been an interesting set of developments in this neighborhood. This morning I was just curious about green space and distance to parks. And one of the things that I did was I called up Google Maps and looked for city parks. They're exactly where you said they were, more than a half mile from our house. But then I looked also at where schools are and where playgrounds are. In fact, we are in a playground desert here because other places where they have fewer parks, they have schools with playgrounds accessible to kids. That, I think, is important. But I would like also to have green and growing things there. I love the way the garden has expanded. I think it's a marvelous thing. We don't have a plot there. I just like seeing that people do. My name is Richard Swanson.
If there is houses there, it's like 14, they wouldn't be big houses because it's a smaller space. So if they were to make houses there, they'd be small, but affordable, but there wouldn't be much space. And the more people moving in there, the more population and the more parks we need to build.
My name is Lisa, and I live on Grange Street between 9th and 10th. I have a daycare. I'm up at that park, or the green space, wishing it was a park for my daycare. We take them up there all the time to run, to play ball, to look at the garden and let them see the different things growing up there and learning of the vegetables and stuff. In fact, I've got a plot up there this summer so they can look closer at the vegetables and stuff. So there are children up there. There's other children in the playground, the neighborhood that has been up there all summer long, playing kickball or whatever. If there was a park there with something for them to do, there would be some out there, because our neighborhoods are just full of children that have no place to go.
My name is also Lisa. We've lived in our house since 2007. We live on the corner of 9th and Euclid. When we first moved into the house, that area was nothing but dirt, thistles, weeds. And my neighbor across the street and I, took turns calling the school board. Once we found out it wasn't owned by the city, it was owned by the school, to get the grass planted. All I can say is if you develop a green space, you can't undo it. So if you look around that green space, you're going to see two houses that have been burnt out. One's been burnt out for about 6 years. Nothing's happened to it. The one that's across the street on, I believe it's 8th Street, got burnt out last year. Nothing's been done to it. There are several houses that are like a couple of blocks from that area that have been vacant, they're boarded up, they were glass everywhere. Nothing's been done to those properties either. I think if the city were to actually look when they were walking around, they would see there is tons of opportunity to tear down, rebuild, without doing anything to the green space that is used constantly. Our kids grew up on that green space. We play bocce ball on that green space. We do kites on that green space. We run around on the green space. The dogs run around on the green space. It is constantly used throughout the summer. So, that's all I can say.
Hi, I'm Reynold Nesseva. and it sounds like we want to park. And so I don't, not to be too mean to the person who's here from the city, but what is the process, if I can put the person from the city on, or if one of the, I see Kurt Sale is here as well. If somebody from the city, what's the process? If a neighborhood wants to have a green space converted into a park, could somebody just speak to what the process is of how we would make that happen?
Thanks. Kevin Smith, Planning and Development Services, City of Sioux Falls. Generally speaking, first the city would have to own the property. That's currently not in city ownership. Second, it would need to be part of the park's overall master plan, and it would have to be programmed for capital improvements, which go through a 5-year planning process, or I should say our CIP is spanned over 5 years. So any improvements would have to be budgeted and funded through the Parks Department, including the Parks Board and ultimately the City Council for approval. So that's, and honestly, that's for any municipal improvements, parks or utilities or otherwise.
Hi, we just moved to, I live on 6th and Duluth, and we just moved here in October, and one of the things that was holding us back was we might have a bigger yard than most people, but it's still small. Like, I don't have a lot that we can do in that space. And when my son found out about this space, he was like, I want to grow corn there, I'm going to grow radishes there. He is planning on growing so much food for everybody, so nobody will ever have to go to the grocery store again, because I'll be able to get it there. And it does get really, really, really hot in the summer. So even a regular playground is kind of inaccessible to kids. In the middle of the day, it's too much. What are they going to do inside? Watch TV. I don't have, like, I can't be constantly entertaining my kids. They need something to do. A big water park. Not just enough for 10 toddlers. I'm talking something that is like a destination. Let's all go to Grange at night. They have an incredible water park. It's amazing. I just think, but also keep the garden. Like, I think that there's enough space for both to develop all that.
So is anyone here from the school that actually owns the property currently?
Augusta, can you give it to Jeff?
Because it seems like are you from the school district?
Yeah, we've had this property for quite some time. So I was here when we demoed the site, and we've had discussions with the neighbors since that time. And in our last capital, we passed $190 million. There was discussions about doing something with the site. We've looked at it several times for potential building for our purposes, and we find it a little small for what we typically do. And we looked at it in our last capital and thought we'd have to buy another block to put an elementary school there or something, an emergent center that went somewhere else. And we didn't want to do that to the neighborhood either. We didn't want to take more houses. And when our last CIP plan came together, we looked at Whittier. The community groups said we want to replace Whittier Middle School and looking at houses to the north of that. And there was some discussion about affordable housing and replacing some housing because we're taking some. So with that, we're not developers. We don't want to put it on the market without knowing what it's going to do, and because we have to follow state law when we dispose of property. And city has an arm that can do that, so we've had conversations with them over just probably the last 5 years on this, and it's still green space. So there's nothing in the work. I mean, there's no formal plans, no anything. We've had conversations about what we can do, what would be better for the community. So that's where we sit today. And so we're here listening, and hopefully we can come to a conclusion that's going to benefit everybody.
Jeff, can you explain to the public, you can either put the property for bid, you can gift it to the city, or you can exchange properties between city government. Can you explain this to the citizens, please?
There's state law that dictates to how we can dispose of property. And we can do intergovernmental exchanges. If we trade properties, we can give it to them for $1. Whatever the school board and city council determine the best solution. I think the school district actually gave Watching Pavilion to the city for $1 when we did that. But if we go on an open market, there's some different ways to do it, whether it's RFP process or we have to dispose of it in a certain way that will meet state government, so there's no underhanded things that go on. So it's got to be a public type of bid, or there's several different ways to do it. So, but you lose control if somebody comes in and puts a high dollar value on it, and you have to award it if you're going to go down this path. So, we were looking at it as a partner that that the city can do something and partner with them and what's better for the community. So we're still researching things. Nothing is in place, and I think the discussion will be ongoing. So,
it seems like the community has done a beautiful job having the grass planted and the gardens that are there, and so is there any issue with just the community taking it upon themselves with any city funding to put a playground in intermittently, so it doesn't have to go through this 5-year process with the city or some bidding project, or turning into a different business or entity there?
Well, I know we've had the discussion quite a few times over the last 10 years about the community and talking about it when we put the gardens in, and the parks have just said it doesn't follow their standards of protocol of a half mile per, and I won't discuss that, but we've had that conversation a couple times over the last 10 years. So right now we're in a partnership with the parks. They actually mow the property, they take care of it, and we do the snow, and then we have a community gardens that we're partnering with them, and the water was brought in by the city. So there's been a lot of cooperation that we've done with the city over the last 10, 15 years since that building was demolished. So, and we do that all over the community with partnerships with the city. With that said, I think we'll continue on with that discussion with the city as this develops. So.
So what is does the school district have a sense of urgency to do something with this property? Yes or no? And then why not just keep it and partner with the communities that live around there, and maybe we would be wanting to do something that would be educational too for Hawthorne, which is not at capacity. I mean, aren't there creative things that we could come up with to kind of use this space without it having to go through all these other hoops and stuff? I mean, why?
Well, the district probably is not going to build on it. It'll be access to the district. And we're not in the business of putting parks or managing parks and play structure where we don't have people and staff to monitor and establish. So that's where the parks department comes into play with that.
But I guess my question is, if it just owned it, but didn't have to do the other management stuff, why can't it be like that?
Well, the liability and everything else that goes with that.
But I guess what I'm saying is, it just seems like there are just these barriers that we just, we're just going to be,
you know, we have to do this, and then there's a 5-year plan, and the Parks Department's already overloaded with lots of these other things, and it's just like, for goodness sakes, that's not what the people who live there want, and it's frustrating because it directly affects where we live and our quality of life. And as people who participate and want things to be better, it's frustrating if no one is listening to us. And they don't give a rip. Correct. And you know, we generate a lot of tax dollars, property tax for the city, and it would be nice if the people that live here could actually, like, get something that we wanted. You know, I mean, that
I'm gonna talk on behalf of the city. It maybe feels like it should be, but I think we're all here listening and trying to find out what's going on here, and that's why we're here. We're all listening and trying to get the input from you folks. So
I think you heard it.
That's why we're trying to come up with the best solution for this community.
Okay. There's some questions over here.
I've gone flying kites in the green space, and like I understand what you want to do to it, but really all you have to do is add a swing set, and then it's fine.
I think there were a couple other hands up. The Moats family has to take off because it's bedtime. But I just wanted to say thank you. I know our elected officials, I don't have any sympathy for you guys because you sign up for a bit of the finger in the chest. But for our civil servants, just wanted to say thank you for coming out. My grandfather was a civil servant in Sioux City, worked in their land office, and to his dying day, died in his 90s. The stories he told up until his deathbed were stories of how proud he was for the development of parks. That's what he was most proud of in his career in civil service. I just want to say thank you for the civil servants that are out here tonight listening to us.
We've got one more, two, okay, we'll go there.
My name is Daniel, and I live at North Duluth and 9th Street, and I want to speak as an advocate for low-income housing and somebody who really appreciates the mixed income neighborhood that we live in. And if we have to pave over this land, I hope that that's what we do with it. But I think there's a much better idea. I think we could turn it into an urban garden. Something that could serve to feed the hungry, that could function as a park with native grasses and wildflowers, an outdoor classroom for local schools. Axtell is right there. And really just a true public space for everybody, for you, for me, for our kids, for the homeless and hungry who could benefit from this. So I think this is a really golden opportunity, and I think we could use it to provide healthy food for those who need it, preserve the green space, create community. I think it's nice to see the two neighborhoods coming together. And maybe, it could be an opportunity for education, for youth leadership, for intergenerational learning. So I think this could be the gem of the city and a point of pride for our neighborhood. So I hope if we develop it, that we turn it into a garden.
My name is Alex, and my daughter Rose and I, we live on the corner of a fourplex on 10th and Koval. And when we've been there 4 years now, when we moved in, I went just up and down the street and introduced ourselves to everyone. And right now, there's 27 kids just between Koval and Euclid on 10th Street in those, because there's a lot of, fourplexes, duplexes, and families with lots of little kids. And one's graduating, so there'll be 26 kids. But they're always playing just on the sidewalk, because none of us, we don't have driveways, we have just on-street parking. So they go up and down the sidewalks on their bikes, or when they come home from school, they'll be on Koval just going up and down the street, and then we sit on the steps and we get nervous because every time a car goes around the corner, we think, are they going to get hit? They're little kids, so they were scared that they're going to run into the street and get hit. It's just you know, and I know it wouldn't take much. It would just take like one basketball hoop or a swing just to get them to go to the park instead of playing in front of the house and like on the street. And there's nowhere. There's 2 empty lots that are for sale right now on Koval, with like 200 block. But some kids used to go there to play football and stuff, but now those are for sale. So that's probably going to get housing built down there, so those won't be there. Plus, it's right by the railroad tracks. It's not the greatest place, but at our place, there's just a slope in the front. There's no yard, so like we went to the park and she learned how to cartwheel, you know, at the green space. So a lot of people do go there, and you know, to the lake, you might not see them all, but we're there. We'd love to keep it just a park.
Okay, so we're going to have time for one more, and then I'm going to make my final statement, and then we're going to adjourn this meeting.
So my husband and I are on the corner of 8th and Euclid. We have several kids that are on our block alone. In the wintertime, it always makes my heart smile because the kids are sledding down the hill toward the end. We see kids over there playing. I know there's been a few times there's been a food truck on one end where people are just gathering there for community. I think that's super important, having that open space. Been there for 11 years. I would hate to see a change. It would be nice to see it develop to more, whether it's a park or something simple. There's been some really great ideas for keeping that space green and open.
All right, so if y'all don't know me by now, for 7 years, we had this meeting for the people, right? Because I'm always at city council. And you put the brakes on government, right? When government wants to step all over the citizens because they forget who the taxpayers are, just like the police department. I had to put them in their spot and say, wait a minute here, who are you working for here, okay? So I got you. And I'm here to be your backbone. Because that's why we put a meeting here, right? Because government needs to hear from the people. All right? I'm from another city, another state, so I'm not a South Dakota transplant. But there will be only one Sierra in a neighborhood association like me. I'm very aggressive. And we need more people like this in neighborhood associations. Suppressing crime in your neighborhood. Policing your neighborhood. And when issues arrive in your neighborhood like this on development, people need to be heard, right? Because when your voice is heard, then the city knows that there's an interest in it, okay? So each and every one of you, I got your back on this. When I heard that they wanted to put affordable housing there, I told no way in hell. Because we are congested with affordable housing in Cathedral and Pettigrew and Wheater as it is. It's becoming segregated in this community. And I don't care what nobody says, I'm from Louisiana, from the project, from the hood. It's being segregated here. Let's put affordable housing in the southeast side of town. Let's put it in all areas of the city. Okay? When I wanted this meeting tonight is because I wanted the people, y'all's mouths, y'all's eyes, y'all's bodies here, to what y'all want in that neighborhood. Y'all been there for years. Y'all pay taxes there. We don't want to ramrod stuff through a neighborhood and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do, and if you don't like it, sell your house and get the hell out of the neighborhood. Who in the hell is city government to do that? It's happening in other neighborhoods. If you look on city council, sometimes you got to put the brakes on development. I asked the school board to put a hold on this. If they do gift it to the city, if they could put conditions with the city. If not, if they can leave it like this. We have a lot of crime with juveniles. A lot. And let me tell you, in Pettigrew and Cathedral, there's juvenile court. With Cathedral, your kids is in juvenile court. Pettigrew is in juvenile court. I want y'all to understand this. It's not just Whittier. Juvenile court has people in Pettigrew in there with gun violence. If we put a park up there, we put a soccer thing up there, we put a basketball hoop there, we will get kids off the streets. Tin Haken always said, and let me tell you something, I didn't like Mary Uther, but I like Tin Haken, but I'm going to put the brakes on him. We don't need affordable housing in that area. Because we're all these kids that are in juvenile court every Thursday. What do they have to do? Nothing but get in trouble, go joyriding in cars, breaking into cars, and stealing guns. How about if we go and we mentor kids in our neighborhood, bring them to a park and show them some basketball hoops or how to play soccer? I'm going to ask the school board. I had talked to the school board umpteen times about this, and let me tell you something right now. I told the city that I want transparency, and transparency like no tomorrow. We should not be going behind the scenes doing stuff. We need a neighborhood. We need a neighborhood meeting now, because there's stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Okay? So the city needs to go back to the school board, and they need to go back to that table, and they need to rediscuss their issues here. When we did that neighborhood walk audit, what did that, no, it wasn't a pastor, it was that guy, said, the person across the street, people want to buy houses, but they can't afford to keep them up. Not Tobias, who is it here? Affordable housing. And I'm not going to tell you all these people that does affordable housing here. Affordable housing is about $250,000 a house. How in the hell, maybe I'm not saying nothing about Cathedral, because there's some rich people in Cathedral, but how can people in each side of Cathedral and Pettigrew, an average middle-class person, afford the $200,000 to $250,000 house, plus to keep it up, plus the taxes on that house?
That's because it's not affordable housing. It's getting harder.
So, I don't want affordable housing to go up, and then we're going to have to worry about them with code enforcement issues too. Now, people said something about the boarded up houses. All those houses are in the court system. Okay? All those houses you're talking about in the court system, those are all slumlords. But there's a process that the state has to follow. The city got to follow the Constitution of the state of South Dakota. There is a process on code enforcement issues. So if you see a house boarded up that's 8-9 months, a year, it's in the court system. Eventually it will be torn down. So let's work with the city, let's work with the school district. Let's see what we can come up with. Let's talk to your city council members. Let's see what we can come up with. We need daycare centers. Daycare centers is packed. There's a lot of daycares. There's no more daycares. It's all full. Where are we going to put the people out in daycares? Now, we could take Central's idea, possibly, and then you know what this could be? Affordable grocery store. A neighborhood grocery store right here in this building. That's an option.
We could use one.
Because Hy-Vee quit. We couldn't hold them hostage to it. They want to sell, we can't put a gun to their heads. But if Central wants to do that, they can make, so this could be an option, and then this building would turn into an affordable, middle-class grocery store neighborhood right here, and this is what we need. Not everybody has cars. Not everybody can afford to go to Hy-Vee and Sunshine. Sunshine and Hy-Vee would take everybody's food stamps in one setting. So y'all need to think about that. Maybe we could put it up for a bid, and maybe Central has enough money they can bid it out. Maybe so. And I'm going to tell you this. The land is only for, it's not for apartments. So if they would want to put apartments there, they would have to go through a rezoning and go through city council. And I can guarantee you city council is not going to let apartments go up right there. So we got to think about the kids. We got to think about the kids in the poor neighborhoods, in the middle class poor neighborhoods. Not on the southeast side of town, the rich people, the elite people. We have problems within our core with crime. And I'm a one-woman army, and I'm tired of going to court for these kids and these adults. I'm sick of it. Now, I just saw today we have a garden there, and we have 2 benches there. So evidently there's not crime out there yet. Transits are not sleeping on there, sitting on those. I've been out there. I patrol the streets 3 times a week. The city could come up with something to make it to where everybody can come to a medium happy. Maybe not everybody's going to agree with changes in their neighborhood. That's just how it has to roll. But I hope tonight that the city and the school board listens to the people and does what the people want in their neighborhood. Now, before this is decided on, whatever plan's decided on, it has to go through the school board. The school board has to vote on it. When that time comes, I will let everybody know so we can pack that school board.
Yes.
Okay? Whatever the decision is. Because the people needs to be heard. These individuals do not live in this neighborhood. I always said, live in a neighborhood, walk in people's shoes before you can relate to it. So I will keep you all updated on this progress. But as we well mentioned that we don't want affordable housing on that land. I'm not against affordable housing at all. But not on this land. And the city needs to try to plan how we're going to spread affordable housing throughout all of the area. Whittier, Pettigrew, and Cathedral is clustered like New York City. We need to spread them out. Okay? Thank you for coming. We're going to join this meeting.